the very last sections that we're going to cover in this text talk about graph theory. Graph theory is a way of modeling and understanding places where you travel from place to place and how you can travel. It has applications in computer networks, so how the internet works. I think maybe about a year and a half ago, there was a cable that got cut in the ocean. It was one of the data transfer cables, and this caused a significant part of the world to experience some pretty major data outages. There's a certain number of central hubs that all internet traffic is routed through, and so if one of those breaks or goes down, it causes problems. So we have this idea of networks, city planning. When you're trying to figure out where you want roads to go from places to places, that's going to be, again, graph theory, how you connect those things. And more recently, for graph theory, we've been doing some pretty cool stuff with like neuro pathways in the brain. How could you possibly connect different aspects of the brain from one part to another and make that relationship? So graph theory is very cool. It's a very open area, actually, in mathematical research. There's new stuff you can do. And in terms of its ability to model very vital parts of the world, it's around us, it's impressive. It's very cool. This is some of the cooler stuff, I think, that we do in this section. So let's come up with some of our language that we have. First of all, you're trying to get the idea that you've got connections between different things. And so these things we're going to call vertices. Vertices is plural. The singular is vertex. So you have one vertex. I've got three vertices. So I don't say vertexes, I say vertices. Once I've got these connections, then I might have different ways to connect paths. And each of these paths is what we call an edge. So a street connecting my house to your house would be called an edge in graph theory. And then if I have a path, this edge, that's starting here and coming right back, we have a special name for this type of edge. We call him a loop, because he's just looped around. Sometimes you have these little arrows with the idea of direction. There's only a certain direction you can go. Other times you don't have anything. Like a normal street in a normal city, you can go different ways on the street. That's why we have two sides that divide them. So these are some of our words that we've got. I also have the words connected. These two parts here are called connected, because they're connected, well, to each other. But overall, if I have these three vertices, because there's a break here, I would say that this was disconnected, because there's that break. If I were to create a connection between these two, I would call this connection right here a bridge. A bridge is an edge, and it's a special type of edge. It's the type of edge that if you get rid of it, there's no longer a connection. This right here is a bridge, because if I get rid of it, these two vertices would no longer be connected to each other. And if I have myself a couple of dots here going on, I can get myself different paths between them. I could go here, I could go here, I could connect here, I could connect here. We have this idea also of degree. Degree is the number of edges on a vertex. So this vertex right here has 1, 2, 3 edges. So he has degree 3. This guy has degree 2. 1, 2, 3. This guy has degree 3. We call these odd, and we call this one even, just as our normal idea of odd and even. So once I've got this idea of different spots and different connections, and bridges and odds and evens and all that, I have to give you some definitions. E-U-L-E-R is pronounced Euler. And so I have the idea of an Euler path. An Euler path is a path, it's a particular path that I take. So maybe this could be, so here I could go from here to here to here to here. Notice the way I traveled that. I traveled each path once, and every edge was traveled. So an Euler path is where every edge is traveled exactly once. An Euler circuit is an Euler path, but I start and end at the same place. And notice that's exactly what I did here. I went here, 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 here. That did not, that was an Euler path. It was not an Euler circuit. You go here, 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 here. No, that's still not an Euler circuit. I've got Euler paths. I've yet to trace myself an Euler circuit on this little thing up here. So, how do I know if there's even a possibility of having an Euler path or an Euler circuit? Well, that's what we use Euler's theorem for. This has drastic implications for people like UPS or FedEx. If you work as a driver for FedEx, your perfect world is an Euler circuit because you start at your main company, you go out and travel the world, and you come back to your main company at night. And you never double cross anything. You never re-travel any streets. You're always driving in the most efficient way possible. So it's a big part of city planning to make sure that Euler's theorem is satisfied, because if it's not, then for sure you know that there is no way that your city could ever have a perfect route going on. So here's the rules for Euler's theorem. If I have a graph with exactly 2 odd vertices, then it has a path. But not a circuit. So I could go through and never travel any place more than once, but like this thing up here, just like this one did, it had exactly 2 odd ones, and it has a path, but it does not have a circuit. And when I start and end, the start and the end must be on opposite odd vertices. And that was true here too. No matter which one I started at, if I started on this one and traveled it in an Euler path, I ended here. If I started here and traveled an Euler path, I would end here. I've traveled each place once, but I've never doubled up. Second part of Euler's theorem, if there are no odd vertices, then there exists, so if no odds, then there is at least one Euler circuit. So if I only have even vertices, then I have at least one Euler circuit. They point out in the book that this can start or end anywhere, like it's a big thing, but let's face it, an Euler circuit is all about you've traveled all the paths once, and you've reached all the vertices, and you've traveled all the paths, and it started and it ended in the same place, and so just kind of like a circle has no end, you really could do that too. So I don't think it's quite such a big a thing as they're saying. The final thing is that if there's more than 2 odd vertices, then there is no path. And since there's no Euler path, that means there can't be an Euler circuit, because an Euler circuit is an Euler path where I start and end at the same place. So that's my requirements on that. So provided I've got exactly 2 odd vertices, then I'll have a path, but I might not have a circuit. If I have no odd vertices, then there has to be at least one circuit. And if I'm trying to find an Euler path or an Euler circuit, that's where you're going to get into following Fleury's algorithm in your book. And so all that says is that if you have exactly two odd vertices, and that means you have an Euler path, you start at one of the odd vertices, and then you start moving along different paths and see what's going on. And in particular, after you've traveled over an edge, you would erase it, and you would replace it with a dashed line. So if I had these, and I traveled over an edge, I would erase it and replace it with a dashed line. So that would help me see what's going on. And then if I have a choice between different edges, I would choose one that's not a bridge, unless there's no alternative. And so Fleury's algorithm helps me see how to go through and trace that. So you're going to want to look through some of the examples, and you're going to see two things in this section. In the first part, you're going to see how to take a real-life situation and turn it into different connections with these different edges that you can have. And then, once you've done that, you're going to start using Euler's theorem to decide whether there is a possible Euler path or Euler circuit. And if you decide that it is possible, then you can use Fleury's algorithm to help you find it. And again, in terms of traveling and efficiency for distribution networks, this is very big. It makes UPS and FedEx together one of the largest hirers of mathematicians in the world, very close after the United States federal government, who hires them to work as code breakers and optimization specialists to fund our rather large military presence around the world. We have to get it supplies dropped off quickly, logistics. So the U.S. government is the largest hire of mathematicians in the world, and FedEx and UPS are very close after that because they are very interested in their drivers tracing Euler circuits.